Hi, my name's Dave Fitzgerald. This is a 1958 Gia limousine, and I built it. The official name of this car is a Crown Imperial Limousine by Ghia. In 1957, Chrysler produced the all-new Chrysler Imperial. It was actually a separate brand known as Imperial. To promote that new mark, they decided to build a car in Italy that rivaled the best limousines in the world. So, in an effort to popularize the overall brand, they sent 100 1957 Imperials to Turin, Italy, to Carrozzeria Ghia. The car that they sent to Italy to be converted was a two-door car with no doors on it. So the car has been stretched in 3 different areas. It's been cut in the roof. Actually, the whole roof is new. So we've got stretched in the roof, the door, and the floor. About 80% of the car has been either highly modified or is handmade. The only thing that's stock on this car is the trunk lid, the hood, the front fenders, and the front bumper. The front door is actually a stock piece that's been modified. They've added this buttress that goes up over the top and cuts into the roof, allowing for ease of entry. The interior of the door was modified with additional reinforcements to take the weight. The outer chrome is all handmade, and the inner chrome is all handmade. On the front and the rear door is an internal drip rail system, only on Ghias. Basically, it's like a gutter on a house. It catches the water and it drains it to the ground. Another Ghia specific item is that they didn't like to show fold over welts or spot welds. So they would lead the inside of the door so that where the outer skin folded over the inner reinforcement, there is no transition, it's just smooth. Also, where the quarter panel folds over into the B pillar or the C pillar, it is leaded and smooth, and it's finished as nice as the outside of the car. They also even do this along the edge of the hood so that spot welds are covered. The rear doors are pretty much all handmade. The door itself is 4 inches longer than the stock door. The glass is handmade. And of course, all the moldings, just like the front door, are handmade, both inside and outside. What's extremely unique about the Ghia is on a 4-door car, the fin, the tapering of the fin terminates in the middle of the door, right here. On a 2-door, it terminates in the quarter panel behind the door, right here. On the Ghias, it fades away just above the door handle. That's only on these cars. Also, of course, being a handmade car, you get to do silly things like this. It fits beautifully. You'll also notice in the back door, there's a lock cylinder. This was standard on almost all limousines, Cadillacs, Rolls-Royces. It allowed for a separate key from the front to the rear door. They handmade these front moldings. The front eyebrow molding that you see here from the factory were 2 pieces of die cast, actually 3 pieces of die cast. And then it had a thin molding running down the side that didn't look like this. These is a 1-piece handmade piece of brass. The enameled badges here in the front are Ghia specific. They don't appear on no other car except for the 57, 58, and 59 Imperials, and they were designed and executed by Ghia. The original crowns were anodized aluminum. These are gold plated. In the front, most everything you see there is stock 1957 Imperial. The bird here, this is a stock bird. However, behind it is a gold plated backer. Interestingly enough, and that's a Ghia part. Interestingly enough, that Chrysler started using these same kind of accents later on their LeBaron models, but they first appeared on this car. The Imperial had a lot of unique features for 1957. Let me show a few of them to you. First off was the 392 engine. This was the biggest of the Generation 1 Hemis. They started off at a 331 and grew progressively over the years. The 392 was considered the most powerful of the Hemis produced up until that time. New for 1957 was the RV2 compressor. They used this compressor all the way into the 80s, but this was the first time it ever appeared on a car, on a Chrysler car. That used a military or police generator. It had to have about 50% more power just to drive the dual air conditioners. And this also appeared on the short-lived fuel-injected cars that Chrysler produced. Back here is the iconic AFB carburetor. This was correct for late production, 1957, and all through 1958. They still build this carburetor under the Edelbrock name. It's actually a 1957 production, but it is a 1958 titled car. All 57, 58, and 59 Gia limousines were actually built in 1957. The valve cover that you see is a 1957 valve cover. In 1958, it said Imperial on it. In 1959, in production, they quit using the Hemi engine. The fin, which of course terminates in a different point, as we've already talked about, has been modified here at the quarter window. It's a different height and a different angle than the stock piece. The main fin here in the back was one of the most important features of the stock Chrysler Imperial. Of course, that wasn't good enough for Gia. They've modified the fin, but tastefully. So the protrusions that you see here that go underneath the halo on the stock car were just die-cast pieces that were about that tall. Then they would run underneath the halo. What Gia did is that on each side, they took pieces of steel, hammered them out, leaded them in, and then put these thin strips of chrome to approximate about the same height as the original die-cast piece, but with a lot more classy execution. The halos themselves have been back cut, which doesn't come on the factory vehicle. And not only are they back cut, but they're filled with a body-colored insert. The tail light, the outer piece of chrome is a hand-spun piece of brass, only came on the Gias. And the reflector down here on the quarter panel was also a piece of die cast that on the original car just bolted to the back. On this, once again, it's a piece of steel that's hand formed and leaded in. The roof is completely handmade. Basically, they just took a piece of steel, laid it over a wooden buck, and started beating on it with leather hammers until they had a panel. The handmade tiara molding, a tiara like a crown on a princess, breaks between the painted surface and the vinyl covered surface. Behind the tiara, the roof actually bubbles. It's about 3/4 inches higher for more headroom. Also, back here, you can see the quarter window. And again, more handmade glass. This never appeared on any Imperial, and well, they only made 30 some of these. So very, 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 very beautifully executed and just really adds to the look of the car. The rear bumper, which is mostly stock, has been modified with this pan. The pan is of course handmade, and then the individual pieces are cut out on a lathe or a milling machine. Then they're threaded from the back and they're screwed to the pan. This is a representation of what the grille looks like in the front. The stock panel that came on Imperials was just kind of wavy. Another refinement from Gia. The trunk lid on the car is stock. However, there were two trunk lids available in 1957 and 1958. There was this trunk lid and then the flight sweep trunk lid. The flight sweep trunk lid had a simulated spare tire in the back of it. I think the Italians thought it was ghastly because no original Imperial came with that fake spare tire. Plus, If you got the fake spare tire, you had to give up the bird and the crown. The back window, once again, it's all handmade. And the chrome on the inside and the trim, the chrome on the outside and the trim on the inside is all handmade. The interior trim, of course, is of the highest level. First off, the door trim panel is completely covered in leather. Now, the moldings themselves are stock Imperial, and it even has a hidden cubby hole in the armrest here. The door handles have a leather wrap applied to them with a chrome cap put over the top. That's Gia only. Inside, the front seat and the entire bulkhead that contains the divider window is handmade. Everything here has been basically handmade with the exception of the dash. The dash is stock, but everything that surrounds it is pure Gia. If you look down the side of the seat, over in front of the steering wheel, you'll see an indentation cut into the seat. The dash is all 1957 Imperial. There's no Gia here. However, the futuristic styling that's displayed on the outside of the car extends into the dash. You can see the deep V cut in the steering wheel, the large gauges, and then of course all the paddles underneath. It's meant to look like an airplane cockpit. The numerals that are on the speedometer and the markings that are on the other gauge package are radium paint. So they were designed to absorb light and then glow in the dark. The bulbs that are behind the dash are behind small black light lenses, so it would have a strange greenish glow. Unfortunately, the paint has reached its half-life and has expended all of its radiation, so they don't do that anymore. The back door, which of course is wholly made up by Gia, has a beautiful covering to it. First off is glove leather, then wool, and the entire door trim panel is made kind of like an airplane wing with internal ribs and aluminum covering. Also, another hidden cubby hole and Italian walnut. And once again, all the moldings that you see are handmade and are specific for Gia. The rear ashtray actually comes out of a 1955 or 1956 Imperial. The rear bulkhead is handmade and is mostly wood with steel reinforcements, just like the quarter trim area here is wood and covered with cloth. Also, the glove leather, the Italian walnut, the handmade moldings, and the occasional seats. These are actually modified units out of a 1955-56 Imperial. Now I want you to notice the quilting here. This isn't really quilting, and it's on every surface in the back here. Each one of these panels is individually upholstered. So there's a piece of aluminum, it's covered with foam. The foam is shaved down on the edges to give it depth, and then they cover it individually, and then they bolt it to each panel here on the doors and back here on the quarter trim as well. It's incredibly difficult to make, and it was the most intricate of the interiors available in the Gia limousine. All proper limousines have divider windows, and that's for the privacy of the occupant in the back. This piece of glass is slightly curved, giving a little bit more headroom to the driver. It curves away from the driver, and it's specifically made just for this car. Once again, the armrest in the quarter trim is wholly made out of wood. It's like cabinetry or even shipbuilding, and then it's covered with foam, and it's covered with the individual panels. Enclosed inside of the armrest is a control panel. On this side, it's the radio control. On the other side, it's the air conditioning and the heating. So this has a search tune radio built into it, and they are two separate units, one for the back, one for the front. Once again, you can see the handmade quarter window, and once again, this doesn't appear on any other Imperials. Also, all the trim here, the handles, the moldings, even this eyeball light here, none of that is stock items off of a different car. They were just made up and built just for this automobile. The package shelf is just a masterpiece of finish work and just demonstrates what Gia does. Even the most mundane of details are paid attention to. So once again, we have leather, and this grille is actually built out of about 20 separate pieces that have been screwed together. It doesn't come on any other Imperial, and it was made just to make this back area look beautiful. We have this traditional bamboo covering here, and then we have leather, and once again, that beautiful back glass with the handmade molding. Rear carpeting, or really it's a luxury mat, is made of Mutton. Mutton is simply a sheepskin that's been electrified to straighten out the hairs, and then it's been sheared to make it, to give the appearance of, say, like a beaver pelt. Mutton was all the rage back in the 50s, with Sammy Davis Jr. famously having an entire room carpeted in Mutton. The footrests, which you can remove, put them in the trunk, allows you to pull up the Mutton carpeting in bad weather. Then you can roll it up and keep from getting mud on it. Individual snaps keep it in place with a snap on a leather reinforcement where you can snap the Mutton down.